Maybe your anxiety and negative thoughts are a result of all the people who have betrayed you in your life. Stick with me and I'm going to tell you how to reverse that trend and become what you seek most in relationship. I'm Bridget Hart, coach, business consultant, and blossoming mystic. I hope that you enjoy the content I'm about to bring you today, and don't forget to subscribe down below, like the video, and leave me a comment because this is all about interacting with you. When I was early in the process of creating what is now the Heart Habits, I was going through a real life situation at the time where a person in leadership in my life that I trusted very much was accused of cheating on his wife with a coworker. It was inside of a church setting, so if you've ever been in that kind of a setting, you know that the gossip was flying and judgments were being made left and right. Everybody had an opinion about what they had seen, what they thought, and whether or not this person was telling the truth or lying, etc. So at that same time, I was kind of going through this initial catharsis of my life, and I was kind of saying like, I don't think I want this anymore. And one of the principles of the initial text that I was working from at the time was love always trusts. All right, love always trusts. This was the sentence at the time that I was faced with. And I had to think about the situation with that in mind. Okay, love always trusts. So for me in that scenario, it meant that I chose to trust the individual I knew in leadership. And he had told me it was not true. And I decided I was just going to believe that. And I was going to move forward as if that was the case. And I was going to behave in a way as if I 100% believed that to be the case, even though there was quite a bit of, mounting evidence against him, so to speak. So I made that decision, and the consequence of that decision was I was kind of pushed out of the gossip circle, which was great actually, because I didn't want to be in the gossip circle anymore. So I was like, okay, good. One first excellent side effect of choosing to trust this individual. But then fast forward a few months later and the truth came out. The person had in fact cheated on his wife. The whole thing was true. It was a sordid affair and there was all the juicy details to go with it. So I had to face the truth of my decision. Like, I decided to trust this individual and believe their story. And it turns out they lied to me, right? Now, this was all a great experiment for me at the time anyways, because I wanted to see, I wrote down that I was going to make this choice. I was going to approach it from this way, and I was going to see what the end result was. And so do you know what the end result was? It was my peace of mind. I had far more peace of mind throughout the entire scenario and situation, throughout the 6 months of this little factoid or that little detail or this little piece of evidence or this meeting that those people had or this or that. I wasn't concerned with any of it. I told people what I believed to be true. I left it there and I walked away from the situation. The beautiful thing was I didn't have to walk away from the people in the situation. I was able to still stay connected to the individuals that are part of that without letting myself be all involved and embroiled in the gossip and the slander and all the extra stuff behind the scenes. It's a good thing too, because here we are 10, 15 years later and he's still married to his wife. So apparently they worked it out. So the solution to the problem of having had so many people betray you in life and how to get through that and stop letting anxiety and negative thoughts ruin your life is to choose trust as your default. That sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? Don't worry, I've got some tools to help you figure out how to choose trust as a default while still honoring yourself, honoring your boundaries, honoring the truth of the situation, and being able to move in a way that's aligned with love. So the principle is simple. It's the third of the heart habits. The word is trust. The mantra is, I choose to trust as a default because I listen to my inner voice and I know how to see and carry truth. So if you've watched any of my videos up till now, you're probably starting to see things pulling around, pulling together, and you might recognize that the two things I mention in this mantra are the first heart habit and the second heart habit, which are self and truth. And if you'll recall in the Stop Letting Anxiety and Negative Thoughts video number 8, where I was talking about truth and how we can allow for everyone to have their own truth. And even if it's in conflict with our truth, we can still celebrate it and allow for it to be true for them. Those principles are really key to what I'm going to talk about today about defaulting to trust or choosing to trust as a default in your relationship. Because what I am not recommending is that you just run around blindly trusting everybody, throwing your life to the wind, and allow anybody to come in and take you with their desires. Okay, that is not what defaulting to trust looks like, and that's not what it means. So I'm going to give you a couple of really specific tools to help you on this quest to live a life aligned with love and to be able to default to trust while still honoring yourself and the truth. So the first is to trust and verify. Okay, you've heard this saying before, I'm sure, but trust and verify. It's okay to trust someone and to default to trusting them, but if their actions or if your trust of them or if your belief of them is going to affect your life in some way, you need to verify that what they're saying is true. And it's okay to verify. You can trust someone and still verify that what they say is true. In business, we call this contracts, right? You could be working with a great friend and you might trust definitely that they are going to honor their word about this business deal that you're doing together, but that doesn't mean that you should forego doing a contract. You still should get it all in writing, verify it by making them sign and date that, or getting a notary and notarizing that they signed and dated, whatever needs to be done to make sure that you verify that the details are in place and that everything is moving forward in a way that everybody agrees on, right? So trust and verify. Now, when I say trust and verify, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think about the people I dated prior to meeting my husband. And at the early stages of our relationship, I had to be honest with my husband that 100% of the men I had dated up to that time in my life had cheated on me. 100% of them had snuck around behind my back, lied to me about it, and spent their time, energy, etc. with other women during the time when we were in a relationship. So to say that I was hurt and untrusting would be the understatement of the century. When I tell you trust and verify, it brings to mind old days when I used to check his phone to see if he was calling certain people or if he was calling someone, or to try and find out what was going on behind the scenes. I told him, I'm going to choose to trust the things that you tell me. At the time, I didn't even know the trust and verify or any of the other things I'm going to share with you today, but I knew I was going to choose trust and I was going to see where it got me. So I kept trying to choose trust, but there was times where I was not believing what he was telling me. So I decided to verify. And of course, verify meant go look through those phone logs and see who he had been talking to and what had been going on. But as I did things like that, what I found was that I would find whatever I wanted to find. If I was determined that he had been calling some female the night before about this, that, or the other, I would certainly find phone numbers that would lead me to believe that that was true. So I chose trust, but then I verified that he wasn't trustworthy, right? The thing is about choosing to trust is you also have to know that you're prepared to deal with the truth. And we talked about last week how truth plays into our anxiety and negative thinking, and how the key to that is to celebrate the truth. Here I had this situation. I'm dating a guy. He's so far been good to me, but my history says he will definitely cheat at some point. I make the decision I'm going to try and trust him, but I'm pretty sure he's doing stuff behind the scenes. So I had to start thinking about truth. Okay, so love celebrates truth. Now, what's the truth of the matter? The truth in that situation was he was showing me with his time and energy and effort that he wanted to be in a relationship with me. He called me every day, asked me what I was doing, invited me to his house, expressed interest in what I was doing, etc. That was the truth of the matter. Another truth was that he told me he was interested in a relationship with me, but also he was very honest with me at the beginning that he wasn't ready to be in a tight, serious, monogamous relationship and that we should just be friends for a period of time. As his friend, I had a lot less say-so on what he did with his time or how he spent it or who he went out with. So the truth is, all I actually had to do was ask him if he was calling another woman, if he was going out with another woman, and he actually told me the truth every time. I'm not suggesting that will always happen for you, but what I am suggesting is that when we take these pieces together, when we choose trust, but we take truth and our own self and valuing ourselves into the equation, then trusting people can't hurt us. It can only help us. So when I say trust and verify, it doesn't necessarily mean dig in and trying to find the truth for yourself. That's not what it means. It means learn more, get more information, find out more about the role that your belief system plays into this situation. Learn more about how you can create better boundaries in your life and how you can honor spirit and your shadow self and your strengths better for yourself. Think about how can you find truth for yourself? What is true for you? What could be true for other people? And how can you celebrate those truths and highlight those truths? So if you're dating someone, you're not sure if they're monogamous with you, well, then you need to have that conversation. And if they're not, then you don't need to be either. Is that good, bad, or otherwise? I don't know. I don't have the right answer for you, right? That's where self and diving into what your boundaries and what matters to you really becomes the conversation at hand. But we have systems and we can verify things and we can make sure that we are taking all the steps necessary to make sure that our trust is placed in places that are really worthy of that trust, and then give it freely. So the second big point about how to always trust and still protect yourself and honor yourself and your boundaries is to trust and then create systems that will close the loop. Okay, so I've already said trust and verify, right? But if you create systems that close the loop, the verification happens as a natural byproduct of the system that you've set up. Okay, so let me give you a good example of this. In business, we call this like the checks and balances of making sure that all your systems are good, are high quality. In the group home business, this was part of our quality assurance process, right? That we had checks and balances to close the loop and make sure that when things needed to be done, that they were done all the way through to completion, and that we had verification that that had happened within our systems. So for us, a lot of those systems were things like timesheets and clear policy and procedures and clear structure for corrective actions. It was duty checklists and performance evaluations. In our personal life, these can be things like an accountability buddy or a prenuptial agreement in a marriage. But it also can show itself in very strong personal boundaries. So there's a nice little system that I like to use that you can use as well, right? Think of it as the triangle of trust and how to build trust. Now, this is not original content to me. I'm going to leave a link down below. The three corners of the triangle of building trust are empathetic, logical, authenticity. So you're going to be able to listen to what other people are saying, hearing what they're saying, being able to put yourself in their shoes and look at the situation from their perspective and celebrate it and be okay with it. Logical means you're going to apply objective truth to this scenario, right? What is the objective truth here? What are the things that are data-based, evidence-based, not subjective truths? Just because I have been cheated on 100% of the time before did not objectively mean that my husband was going to cheat on me. It didn't mean that, actually. Subjectively, it might have felt that way, but objectively, that was not true. So when we talk about logic, logic is based on objective information and data and truths. And then we talk about authenticity. The very top, most important part of it is that you are being trustworthy and authentic yourself. So the habit is to choose trust as a default for other people. But the way that we do it is to be trustworthy ourselves in a logical, empathetic way. What does this look like? Again, it looks like contracts in business, right? It looks like accountability partners. It looks like prenuptial agreements. It looks like looking at a situation from an objective point of view that embraces the fact that there can be objective and subjective truths and they might conflict sometimes, and that's okay. Let's embrace them all. The way to get people to stop betraying you is to choose to trust them and to set up systems to be able to verify that that trust is well placed, to know yourself well enough that you have great boundaries and you're honoring your strengths, your shadow, and the spirit, being able to accept and acknowledge and allow for different truths that might conflict sometimes, and finding ways to celebrate those truths even though they conflict. And what you have is a perfect recipe to be able to choose trust. And as you choose to trust other people and you give that to them, they begin to give that to you back. This really could be the most pivotal piece of the heart habit for changing our lives, because we are not taught to trust in this society. We're taught to be cautious and critical and to be looking for how someone is trying to cheat us or take from us. In a capitalist society, that's a well-founded fear because that's how it was designed, okay? And that's the truth of the matter. It was designed that way. So how can we celebrate? Okay, it was designed that way. Now, how do I go about living my truth, honoring myself and my boundaries in a society that is that way? And the way you do it is by doing disruptive things like choosing trust as your default. That's how you do it. And as you choose trust for your default while still verifying and closing the loop with systems, the more other people feel they can trust you, they begin to trust you, and the loop grows and grows and grows. And we begin to strengthen each other better. And we become stronger together. Synergy, look up that word. That's what happens when we begin trusting one another more deeply, even though we know we're all kind of effed up humans. We all do messed up stuff sometimes. We do. That's the truth. But when we can trust each other anyways, or when we choose to trust each other anyways, we begin to change things real significantly, really quickly. Choose trust. Trust and verify. Close the loop with systems. But choose trust. It's going to help you. It will help you stop letting anxiety and negative thoughts ruin your life. You will go from feeling very guarded and like you've been victimized to feeling very trustworthy and trusted by other people. And it's funny that you would be trusted because you've chosen to trust other people, but that's how it actually works in our society and in our brains. So, yay for brain science! I love you. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you next week.